Hi, I'm Alana Hippensteel from Pharmacy Times, and joining me today is Dennis O'Neill, the president and board member of Biomedican, to discuss the growing psychedelic medicine market and how providers are beginning to look to psychedelic medicine to treat certain mental health disorders. So, Dennis, what has led to the growing acceptance of psychedelic medicine in the United States today?
Well, I think when you look at it, it's psychedelics have been around for thousands of years. So this is not a new substance that is foreign to most people. It was mostly taken, as a recreational drug to get high, and some people received some benefits from that in the 60s and 70s. That there was some research done that really showed some health benefits going into this, but the real problem that we have going on today is that we have we went from a COVID epidemic to a healthcare epidemic, and now we have millions upon millions of people suffering from major mental health issues, and that is and the system is being overflown, or just overwhelmed by the amount of people that need real help. And the problem that we're having is that the current pharmaceuticals in the market today are really not doing the trick as far as being able to get people to a place to where that they feel, at least stable and happy to a certain degree. So now that what this is opening up is it's opening up a new division, to where that let's try some other things. Let's see what other things that are out there that have been known to be helpful. And with psychedelics, it's you have a plethora of significant amounts of data in various forms. I mean, they were treating inmates in prisons, in the 50s, with all these psychedelics to see if it was see what kind of benefits it would have. So I think when you look at the totality of the data that's out there today, and the tall order of real mental health issues that we're really dealing with, that this seems to be a highly probable solution for many yeah, mental health problems.
Yeah, yeah. And have the perspectives of healthcare professionals in relation to the usefulness of psychedelic medicine shifted alongside consumer trends?
Uh, well, on the health, I think that it really started with the researchers, opposed to the healthcare professionals, because the healthcare professionals tend to not believe anything that doesn't have clinical data, and they're just until it's proven out, it's folklore, and it's a theory, but there's no real proven evidence. But now that there is some real evidence coming into the market, to where that these substances are treating, especially untreatable depression. I mean, the people that have tried everything and have not responded or responded well, that some of these psychedelic treatments are turning into being very helpful. And then now we have this new uh, therapy to where that people are using psychedelics and MDA and things of that sort, to where that they're prescribing it as part of therapy, and then they seem to be making a lot more progress doing that.
Right. And how are some of these psychedelic substances produced specifically for the use as medicine different than some of these psychedelics that we know to be associated with recreational use, such as
Mhm.
LSD or DMT?
Well, that's been one of the biggest issues, is anytime that you're trying to take a product that you have to essentially farm, grow, harvest, you go through some type of a purification process or whatnot. Every plant is different, every season is different. So you have variance in every single plant. And that makes it almost impossible to take through clinical trials or to have any clinical data that is reliable because you already have a variant in the core product that you're trying to that you're trying to test. With what we do at Biomedicain is that, and other companies can do this with biosynthesis as well, is is that we're able to produce a 99% plus pharmaceutical grade compound. It's bioorganic, it's non-GMO, it's the exact same molecule every time, and it's bioidentical to what takes place in nature. So at least that when you're doing clinical trials, you actually have the exact same product or molecule or compound to use every single time. One of the big advantages that that anybody with a biosynthesis platform brings to the table is number one is that you're using about 90% less natural resources and energy, which it makes it very sustainable, and it brings down the cost by typically somewhere around 70 to 90%. So yeah, so you're you're adding quality, you're bringing down costs, and you're doing it in a very sustainable way.
Right. Are there psychedelic medicines currently available on the market for treating mental health disorders?
Yes, for sure. The big issue has been, I mean, in places like Australia and Europe, yeah, a psychiatrist or a psychologist, they can write a prescription for uh, for psychedelics. But the problem is finding a facility that is a GMP produced facility, which means that it's, you know, it's produced under pharmaceutical standards. And that has been the major issue. And that's one of the areas that we think that we can help because that we can bring in a standard to where that it is pharmaceutical grades, pharmaceutical conditions, everything that you would need to be able to fill a prescription. And we're definitely making progress with that in Europe, and we're definitely making progress with that in Australia. And the reason why we're there is that because it's already approved for the psychologists and psychiatrists to write those prescriptions.
Right, right. Um, what are some of the mental health disorders that psychedelic medicines are known to be able to treat?
Sure. Well, they're quite vast. I mean, the major issues are, you know, uh, depression, clinical depression, anxiety. Um, people with PSTD. I mean, yeah, those are issues that are have been very difficult to treat because they come and they go. And there is therapy on patients that have not responded to therapy in the past, that by taking a combination of psychedelics and possibly other things that people are testing now, that they are making significantly better progress in therapy than using it, than just using the product itself. There is, I mean, in psilocybin and some other in some of the other compounds out there, it's showing to reset the brain to a certain degree to where that you're kind of like pre-depressed, before that you end up with the major conditions of depression or anxiety and things of that sort. So I think obviously it's just amazing how many clinical trials are going on now on a global basis. I went into the archives and there were hundreds of them over the past, and especially in the 60s and 70s, where they thought this was going to be the magic that that made everybody love each other. And obviously they didn't get to that point, but yeah, so I mean, We are in the world of pharmaceuticals, so you have to go through all the testing. You have to go through the clinical trials. I mean, you might be able to get some of them fast tracked, but these are time consuming. They're expensive, and any little mistake will ruin your clinical trial. So I think that well, the bigger picture is this: there are so many companies going after the space right now with so much money that there is more than a few people that believe that this is a cure-all of some sort, and that there is going to be some massive market at the end of the day here, because we're still a couple of years away, and there is no end of companies lining up to 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 throw their hat in this ring and try their version of whatever their treatment for psychedelics is.
Right. And in the sense of being able to treat some of these mental health disorders, you were talking about rewiring or resetting the brain.
Hmm.
Would you be able to kind of just as I'm sure it's highly complicated, but just as um, briefly as possible, would you be able to explain a little bit about how that works exactly?
I can tell you from what I've read and what I've experienced myself that your brain gets to a point where it gets to a certain stress level, and it's very, very, very difficult for it to de-stress from those levels. It takes therapy, it takes time. Different people respond to it in a multiple different ways. And there seems to be, at least in psilocybin, that I've read about and I've experienced myself, that after doing one, whatever you would call it, acid trip or whatever you wanted to you call it, that there is a resetting of the brain to where that it seems to uh, um, kind of be repositioned before the trauma, or before the major depression set in, and some of those other things. And I don't know how describable they are, or how much it is theory opposed to fact. But I will tell you one thing: it seems to work for sure, especially people that suffer from severe depression. I've had bouts of that on and off in my life, and I tried it a couple of times, and it definitely worked. You know.
Okay. And when you're referencing tried it, you're talking about the psilocybin. Is that the correct name?
Yeah, the psilocybins, the mushrooms. That's yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you microdose them over a period of time, and it's not like you run around, jumping over campfires or anything, but it's you just yeah, you just do it in small doses, and over a period of time, it seems to have a resetting effect. I'm sure that I've read quite a bit about it, so I know uh, it's something they're trying to prove out for sure.
Yeah. If pharmacists were interested in learning more about the safety and efficacy of psychedelic medicines in treating mental
Mhm.
health disorders, is there any location for published literature or any specific publication that you might recommend to refer to for further data?
Well, I was thinking about that, and when you look online, I mean, the amount of data is just literally overwhelming,
Okay.
because I mean, there is so many um, of so many different studies done, but probably the most shocking thing that I found out there was St. John's has the most information on psychedelics.
Okay.
So, which is interesting, because I mean, they're such a reputable, pharmaceutical institution, and they seem to show that you know, uh, you know, they seem to have the most data. That they seem to be most active in the space. They seem to be at least trying to garner the audience for psychedelics, because on most things. They showed up, on most Google searches and things that where you're trying to dig in. They had, first, second, third search results, and the data was pretty, pretty in depth.
Right. What do you think is the value of pharmacists understanding some of these cutting edge treatment methods available for mental health disorders in particular, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, something for the pharmacist, I mean, it would be, I think it's important. I think, pharmacists, in the United States compared to abroad are two different people. Pharmacists abroad are your doctors. People don't go to their doctor, they go to their pharmacist for treatments, pretty much everywhere else in the world except the United States. And in the United States, for the pharmacist, it's kind of like an offset of the doctor. It's really going to matter of what level of restriction they're going to put on the access to the pharmaceuticals, which I would imagine will be very severe, because they're not going to want this to, be, kind of like an over-the-counter cold medicine. It's definitely going to have to be a prescription-based uh, uh, a model. And then, I mean, what's critically important after that is that the pharmacist has enough data and information to be able to explain it to the patients, because ultimately that's where all the pharmaceutical information is shared, is from the pharmacist to the patient.
Right, right. What do you see as the future of the psychedelic medicine market?
I see a world to where that we're going to see new blends of all these different types of chemicals and compounds that would not be thought of today, that will be constantly optimized for mental health. And I truly believe that that this is going to, yeah, when you factor in the mental health is a problem, but it's a financial problem, it's a family problem, it's a work problem. I mean, it affects every single aspect of your life. And when these things are through, I believe, biosynthesis and biosynthesis platforms, and there's plenty of them outside of Biomedicaine that can do this. They're going to continue to optimize and play with the reactions of the combinations of what they can do. And I think that will end up in a place to where that we'll be able to mitigate 80% to 90% of a lot of the mental health problems.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, that would be, yeah, I mean, within the decade, I would say, give me a little runway.
Sure, yeah, it's still an amazing.
No, but I think it's happening because the best and the brightest are starting to work on it, and it's exciting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with all of the advances we've seen during the pandemic, it's
Yeah,
really optimistic to
A-
get to that.
and not only that, but the demand of that, this needs to be treated very seriously. It needs to come to the forefront. It needs to, I mean, mental health is too serious of a problem I mean, most people just act like they don't have one,
Right.
and that's a serious problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
Okay, well, thank you so much.